almost got away from us, caught us talking. That's fun, though. We're okay with that. How are you? Let's start that little happy music we so love. There it is. All right.
Getting into the rhythm now.
Welcome to Stages of Life Radio. We are live and in person. I am Melissa Fox, and Dr. David Klein is your hostess. No, hostess. Host with the most.
Host with the most.
Just took cookies. No. Stay away from snacky cakes. Trying to save myself. It's not working. All right, so today you wanted to discuss a couple of things before we open up the phone lines, and the text lines, of course, are always open. Text lines 23680. So go ahead and get your stuff lined up there. Much information as possible, and we'll try to answer your questions before the hour is over. But first, we need to talk about lab results and how to read them, how to find out what's going on. Talk to me.
Well, okay. So it started off with my wife suggesting that I apologize for last week's discussion on laboratories and cut the polysyllabics and the eponyms and acronyms and try to avoid at best cost all neosyllogisms and get down to brass tacks.
He said he's going to talk in little words with lots of big content, but that are understandable to most of us.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to limit it to as many monosyllabics as I can.
That's nice.
So, yeah, nice guy, huh? Yeah, okay. Well, in any event, what it boils down to is this. We talked about lab work last week, and the idea here was to get you a general idea as to what the doctor is supposed to be looking for, what they might be looking for, and most certainly what I look for in objective findings. Because otherwise what you're getting is somebody walking in and you're telling them a story. It's called a history in medicine. You're giving them a history. And then the doctor has to decide what to believe. Only half of what you are telling the doctor is actually true. And then try to come up with a solution, right?
People lie.
They do. Well, they don't even know that they're necessarily lying. They interpret things for you. So you need to look at the doc or whatever provider happens to be looking in your general direction. And it's hard to do this over the phone. It's even harder over the radio, but yet we do it. So when you're in person, this is when you get the best value in medicine. Somebody's going to look at you, touch you, figure out what the heck is going on, and then you get objective sorts of interpretations, and lab work is the number one way that you do this. Because a physical examination, you interpret what you feel. With a history, you interpret what you hear. With a radiograph, an MRI, an X-ray, you interpret what shadow is in front of you. But a lab, man, you're getting hard data, but it still needs to be interpreted. So what does the lab work tell me? What you're trying to do is you're trying to detect problems that are there, but even better, you're trying to detect problems before they become large issues. So some of these things may show up as little H's or L's, but more typically they don't. They'll end up within range, and it takes somebody with a little bit of patience and perhaps a little bit of an inquisitive nature to be able to find out what's going on. So one of my favorite things, when I get routine lab work, and this is not routine for most people, and that's to get a growth hormone level. And you're going to go, whoa, well, why would you get a GH level, growth hormone, in an adult, unless you think they have acromegaly, which is a growth hormone secreting tumor, which is very rare. Andre the Giant would find that to be an exception to the rule. However, most people do not ever get their growth hormone levels checked. A lot of folks will go out there and get growth hormone injections so they can look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. However, in my world, growth hormone is something that I check with my patients about every 90 days. And the reason is very simple, because it gives me a general idea of how many REM cycles, how many dream cycles you do while you're supposed to be sleeping. And that is a remarkable piece of data that gets missed so much of the time, because it gives you an understanding about 1/3 of that person's living existence, which is while they're asleep. If they're not hitting REM sleep, it means a number of different things are possible, one of which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's shocking the number of folks that I pick up with PTSD by looking at their growth hormone levels. I'll say, well, you got one of several possibilities here. One, you're drinking too late at night. Well, I don't drink. Good. Okay, your cortisol level might be too low, but it's not, which kind of leaves PTSD. So if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, your body tends to play against REM sleep, because that's where the nightmares kick in, which are hallmark of PTSD. So you need to understand that in order to treat depression. Because one of the most common ways of making somebody depressed is to deprive them of sleep. Deprive them of REM sleep, and wouldn't you know it, they become depressed in a matter of a few days, and it can become relatively irreversible after 6 to 8 weeks. And then the easy stuff, okay? It helps to contribute to weight gain and diabetes. So there you are. You have problems with blood sugar, you have problems with weight, and we're talking about sleep. But I need to exercise more. I don't need to sleep more. And the answer is maybe you're wrong. If it were working so well for you, you wouldn't be worrying about gaining weight.
There
now,
you go,
don't you
making
think?
sense again.
Yeah, go figure that one out. You don't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect that a different result is going to happen unless something else changes, and usually for the worse. Okay? Because in medicine, as we get older, changes are usually not in your favor. Okay? You want things to stay the same.
I hear you.
You get to 30 years of age, you want everything to stay just that way. But you know they don't. But the trick, the goal, the mission of your doctor is to try to sort through those issues that can be altered to change the way you're going to age and the way you're going to progress. Very simple, very straightforward, but sleep is like number one. So what do? We also get cortisol levels because it will tell me whether or not you can possibly get to sleep. So if your cortisol's too low, you'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it'll be a problem. You can't get back to bed. And so what else do we look at? The more obvious dietary problems. And you're going to go, well, of course, you're going to pick up things like elevated blood sugar, and you're going to pick up cholesterol issues or triglycerides or whatever it happens to be. But it's really more subtle than that, because anybody can go to the drugstore, anybody can go anywhere and get a cholesterol screen and not really get any information. So why do we care? Because insulin is what you really need to be looking at, because it's going to tell you why you have the blood sugar issues to begin with, or why you have the weight issue. So, I'll look at it and somebody will come in, their blood sugar might be relatively normal, the insulin will be off the chart, and I'm going to know they're doing something very specific. They're eating dried fruits, they're eating a hidden source of fructose, okay, and this makes them pre-diabetic. And you can pick it up with a $15, $20 lab test, and alcohol will do very much the same thing. So looking at an insulin to glucose ratio will tell you whether or not you have problems in those ways. Now, are there other things that can do it? And the answer is, of course. But that and those are the most common of the bunch. Weight-induced diabetes. You're going to go, well, gee, my doctor told me that I gained weight and therefore I got diabetes. It's exactly wrong. Upside down and backwards, to be sure. No, the weight didn't make you diabetic. The insulin that went up made you gain weight and thereby became diabetic, and that's just the way these things work. So the weight gain always precedes the diabetes by 15 years.
Didn't make me fat?
No, the spoon helped. Okay, the problem is portion control.
Go ahead and make that last 15 years comment again for me.
There you go. Yeah. Whack. Out comes the spoon. And then things like triglycerides will tell us whether nuts and cheese are a dietary issue, saturated fats, and alcohol. Okay. So what we're going to do, we've got a few more things we're going to go over after this break, which is coming up here momentarily, and then we'll start taking some calls. Why? That's what I want to do. Heck, I'm the host.
It's
I get
your
to do what I want to
You
do.
can do whatever you want.
So if anybody wants to reach us at Stages of Life Medical Institute, we can be found at 1917 Booth Circle, which is just a piano's throw off of I-4 and 434. You can see us at stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com. We have all kinds of things you can read about. We have all manners of videos out there, lots of stuff, too much stuff actually, but you might find something of value.
Mm-hmm. And you should also follow the doctor on Stages of Life Medical Institute on the social media platforms.
Yeah, that's very good, because I do find articles periodically, and they're almost always shared on Facebook.
Always. Danny's kind of goofy all by himself.
Yeah.
It's true. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, like the doc said, and we're going to finish up this about what your lab work can tell you and how it can help you be aware of bigger problems on the horizon. And then we'll take some phone calls and we'll answer your texts as well. You can get online right now with the phone calls at 407-422-1212. Texting's even easier. 23680. Stages of Life Radio, right here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. Yay!
Now I can do the neosyllogisms.
Bonnie says she will be there tomorrow.
Oh, excellent.
Good to know. Linda, hi. How you doing? Hi, everybody else who's watching. I'm here. Here. Hi, everybody. It's me. My lips aren't syncing up with my face.
Is that there we go. Well, I kind of like the way that sometimes you can look at these cameras and lock up the internet. Did you know that?
Well, don't do it.
Let me show you.
Don't do it.
There it is. See?
You have to do a little longer than that.
Nah. Yeah.
Yeah, because then people would just walk right away from the page. All right, so we usually answer medical questions and gib gab during the radio commercial breaks, which run a couple of minutes. So it's always good if you have some questions or if you refer us. That's always nice. Iggy's on the line. There we go. There's our old friend Iggy. He's always got a question or two. I often wonder he's always asking for a friend.
Yeah, well,
either that or he's really messed up. I'm just going to say, okay, maybe
well,
he's probably is asking for a friend.
Well, Iggy, your friend's STS there. It's we need to talk about that.
Anyway, speaking of the villages. Speaking of villages. Oh, here we go. Tanya's always in. She's good. I've had neutropenia.
Neutropenia. It means low white cells.
Okay, most of my life. I'm 1 month post Pfizer vaccine. Will I have the antibodies since I'm immunocompromised?
Well, you may not actually be immunocompromised. You're assuming that. Okay, so the white count tells you what the white cells, how much is in your blood, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how much in total because white cells also marginate. What does that mean? It means they stick to the side of the blood vessels. If you were truly immunocompromised, like individuals with AIDS and some of these others, you would be sick most or all the time or passed away by now. So what you're interested in is antibody levels, which is kind of a cool question because I happen to know a lot about this one. We're the only lab in the country right now that will clinically or routinely measure the amount of antibodies to COVID, both IgM and IgG, not only tell you whether they're there, but how much. So, if you have a high level of gamma globulin, as my wife does, you have little or nothing to worry about. So this is something you may want to talk to us about, and it's inexpensive. It's like $99 for the IgG and IgM together. It's a bargain, and it'll tell you what you need to know. So, Tanya, that's what you need to do.
That's pretty impressive stuff, and he did it in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, I've done a lot of things in less than 30 seconds.
Iggy says he just got a clean bill of health from Stages of Life Medical Institute this past week, thanks to the doctor.
Hey,
very nice.
Every so often I miss them.
Stop it. 10 seconds and we'll be back on the radio. Just want to let you know. For those of you that are watching us, by the way, that's me over here in the down corner, a little dark person. Not really a little dark person.
I'm the guy that's on the stage with all the band behind me.
Way up there, yeah, he's got that. Someone was like, "What is that behind him?" I said, "What do you mean? What's that behind him?"
It's somebody with a garrote.
So, welcome back to Stages of Life Radio. No, seriously, the totem guitar sketch. So I was like, "What is that behind him? That evil-looking thing?" I was like, "It's a totem. What are you talking about?"
That's a real air guitar.
Yes. Welcome back to Stages of Life Radio. How are you? Melissa Fox along with Dr. David Klein. And we do this for you every Sunday afternoon, 4 to 5. You're in the middle of talking about lab work and how darn important it really is to find, things that are going on that you wouldn't normally notice. And I'm not sure exactly where we left off. I think it was nuts and cheese.
Yeah, well, triglycerides.
Okay, I was trying.
Folks, pay attention to their cholesterol. What is your number? Why? Because they really like selling you statins. Okay? Let's lower your cholesterol by giving you a drug. That may be necessary, but what made the cholesterol go up? That is really far more interesting. More times than not, cholesterol goes up as a result of liver issues, the most common of which is hypothyroidism, which leads me to the other dietary problems that you can pick up with blood work, routine blood work. So functional hypothyroidism. So you're gaining weight, you feel depressed, your hair is falling out, you have heavy or irregular menstruation if you're a girl. And
well,
so,
a guy,
but my doctor told me my TSH is normal. Right. Okay, you can end up with hypothyroidism with a normal TSH. It's called euthyroid-sick, or more appropriately, functional hypothyroidism. And why is that? Because there are many ways that you can make yourself hypothyroid in spite of the fact that your pituitary, which knows everything, does not think so. So how do you make yourself hypothyroid with your diet? You can do it easily with a bag of peanuts. You can do it easily with Cremora, these soy-based cream things for your coffee. Soy inhibits thyroid function. And if you don't believe it, I used to do this as a party trick, and that was to have people take their temperature and then drink a hot cup of coffee or a cold cup of coffee if they prefer with soy-based coffee creamer. And the non-dairy creamers are almost all soy. And so then what do? The temperature drops a half a degree in an hour. Why is that important? Because when your metabolic rate drops, your weight goes up and your cholesterol goes up. So all of those people back in the 1970s that told you that you had to come off cholesterol-containing foods because your blood cholesterol was high may have gotten it wrong, because they put you on soy protein, and wouldn't you know it, cholesterol problems have gotten worse and more prevalent than they did 50 years ago when they came up with that brilliant bit of guidance. Same thing is true with peanuts and garbanzo beans. They do the same thing. Aging issues. Okay, so everybody loves the idea of aging gracefully, right? So what is it about that you have that's bothering you about aging? Well, the wrinkles, that's a possibility. But memory problems are the number one concern that my patients bring up with regards to aging. So you can find out what's happening with aging, again, by looking at growth hormone levels. Why? Because when GH goes down and ACTH goes down, cortisol levels go down. When cortisol goes down, the brain slows down. So pregnenolone drops, which is also known as the memory hormone. The vast majority of the people listening right now have never had their pregnenolone levels checked.
It's just not a routine thing?
It's not even close to being routine. I got more data on human pregnenolone levels than anybody else in the country right now. So why is this important? Because pregnenolone levels, when they're too low, lead to dementia-like states. So you can bounce these things right back using pregnenolone, but you better measure this stuff first, otherwise you're not going to be treating the right thing. So cognitive problems with low thyroid and adrenal issues. So if your cortisol's too low, your adrenal function's no good, your memory isn't going to do well. Thyroid is the same thing. It's the number one cause of depression as well, and fibromyalgia. Well, I have fibromyalgia. More than likely you're hypothyroid. And then come the really cool ones, the rarer ones, which I like to pick up. So you can end up with dementia due to parathyroid and calcium metabolism issues. And we pick up maybe 2 or 3 patients like this per month. Grandma comes in, she's drooling on her toasties, and we find out that she has a parathyroid adenoma. So we refer those for surgery. It's one of the few things that we refer routinely for surgery, and they bounce right back because, wouldn't you know it, the body doesn't like too much calcium floating around. Osteoporosis, we do blood studies looking for that, one called bone-specific alkaline phosphatase, or OSTase. Marvelous. But what do you do if your estrogen's too low? Estradiol in particular, progesterone, testosterone. All of those things lead to osteoporosis. Treatable causes of osteoporosis: libido, erectile dysfunction. What about that? So we look at something called prolactin with men. So why would you be looking at prolactin with men? And the answer is because it is results in low libido. Estrogen levels in men, they go up, libido becomes an issue. So thyroid problem, adrenal issues, all of these things are picked up with our routine blood work, not necessarily other people's. So the idea is to look for those issues that you can treat, not for things that are untreatable or uncurable. And that pretty much is what I wanted to discuss, because I didn't get to it last week, and I did it without sounding too erudite.
Oh, come on, really? With the big words, Doc? Really?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It's every so often I have to amuse myself. So there you go.
You're impetuous.
So we're going to go and take calls, take questions.
Okay, well, actually, we've got a few of them lined up now.
Good.
First of all, have Pfizer or Moderna had any blood clot issues? That one's off the text line.
No, actually, and the reason why is this. The ones that have, the AstraZeneca and the J&J, are both called viral vectored inoculations. And it's not the first time with these sorts of inoculations that they've seen clotting problems. But the Moderna, the Pfizer, both of those are actually mRNA vaccines. And there haven't been any problems other than feeling achy. And I'll tell you what, I had the Moderna, my wife had the Pfizer, and we both had pretty much the same reaction in pretty much the same way and pretty much the same severity. Mm-hmm. What does it mean? It wasn't such a big deal. We both got sick with COVID too, by the way. And the disease really stinks. So if you think that people are whining about the side effects of the vaccine, try getting the disease. It's a whole lot less fun. So what else do we have there?
Well, actually, Kathy's checking in. She is listening from that little teeny island about 30 miles off the coast of, you're not familiar? New England? Yeah, Nantucket.
Nantucket.
Yeah. And she said she had one COVID vaccine, Moderna, and ever since she's had warm flashes when she wakes up in the morning. She wanted to know if I had any reactions because I had my last Moderna shot this past week.
I had nothing like that at all.
Oh, it wasn't great.
Yeah, well, you ache a bit.
It took like 7 hours, and from what I hear,
7 to 8 hours is about right.
The women are hit a little harder, usually with a headache. My glands, lymph nodes were very affected, and
it's a good thing.
Yeah, typical headache. The arm didn't hurt, and then all of a sudden, worm.
Yeah.
So, and then I kind of felt a flu-ish the next day until about halfway through, like 2 days later.
It's about right.
Yeah.
And so what happens is it's supposed to do something very interesting. It's supposed to make your immune system think that you're diseased. So the reaction is going to be a good sign. Now, having blood clots, not such a good thing.
No, not
but
good.
that really isn't part of an immune response anyway. So I've been telling people since it was available to stick with the Moderna and the Pfizer. The Pfizer preferentially because it's a 3-week cycle as opposed to a 2. But my recommendation to you, Kathy, is to get the second injection. You've already, committed. Just get it done.
Yeah. I mean, waking up and feeling a little flushed for the...
It's okay. It's not going to hurt. But don't take anything like an NSAID. Don't take any Motrin. Don't take any ibuprofen. Don't take any meloxicam. Any of that
Tylenol's
stuff.
okay?
Tylenol's fine.
Okay.
Tylenol is a cyclooxygenase 3 inhibitor as opposed to a cyclooxygenase 2 inhibitor, and it's fine. So all you need to remember is Tylenol is okay for this.
All right. There you go, Kathy. And again, thanks for listening on iHeartRadio to News Radio WFLA Orlando. Here's one off the text line. I'm 71 years old. I've been taking 5,000 micromilligrams of folic acid for 5 years, but an X-ray still shows atherosclerosis of the aorta. Should I do something more?
It depends. The question I would have for you is, has the atherosclerotic issue changed? Because the calcium actually is sometimes inside the artery itself, not necessarily on the outside, but it's on the inside. And the aorta is very, very thick. Inflammation leads to the deposition of calcium, which you're going to see as atherosclerosis. And then the body lays down platelets. They in turn become these cholesterol deposits, crystals. So if it hasn't gotten any worse, leave it alone. What I take is the same 5,000 microgram folic acid, which I've been doing for about 15 years. I take fish oil with it. Now, why the fish oil? Because the fish oil has something in it called EPA, which stands for eicosapentaenoic acid, and it's an anti-inflammatory. I take an aspirin, baby aspirin, once a day at bedtime for that, and it has made a huge difference with me. So my calcium score is 0, and you're not much older than I am, actually. So what would I do? Add a fish oil to it. The one we use is called Heart and Soul. You take 2 per day. The baby aspirin is that of choice. I think St. Joseph's is probably the best one, but Ascriptin's another good one.
Okay, there you go. Look at that. Time that right out, didn't you?
Rock and roll.
We got a phone call on there. Jerry's going to be checking in from Merritt Island.
Cool.
And the text line's always open, 23680. Plus, if you want to take some learning on yourself, go to stagesofliferadio.com and just have a heyday. I mean, there is so much there.
That, and you're doing real research because you're going to be picking up stuff that I've cherry-picked
so
for you.
It's not like going to WebMD and, you know what I'm talking about. Stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break here, check the news at the bottom of the hour, and we'll be right back. It's Stages of Life Radio on News Radio WFLA Orlando. Okay.
Yeah, we have a text in here about the use of Flomax following radiotherapy for prostate cancer. We're going to do that one on the air.
Yeah, that's a radio one.
That one's a good one. I mean, they're all good, okay, but that one is going to be...
Tanya is asking about if free T3 and free T4 is okay along with the TSH, then is the thyroid okay, or do I have... And I do have fibromyalgia.
You need, when that's the situation, you need to look at your cortisol level because you can have normal levels of T3 and T4. The free T3 and free T4 are not as useful in my practice as the totals. I get both. I'd rather know the total amount that's being secreted. You have a good TSH. We'd want to look at your temperature. That's be an important thing to look at. But yeah, I would be inclined to increase the thyroid dosage. And I do push it periodically when that is the circumstance. But it could be too low of a testosterone, too low of a progesterone. That will make it so the thyroid doesn't work. And even still, you may not know this, Tanya, okay, that estradiol, estrogen to you, will increase TSH secretion. So if your estrogen's too low, TSH drops and it looks like it's normal. Wouldn't you know it? There's a whole lot more to this stuff than just simply looking at the H and L's. That's like that tune, X's and O's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The H's and L's. H's and O's.
No, X's and O's is definitely something different. But good that you tried to reference it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I try hard.
Linda Ball's checking in. She said she had the same symptoms as me. She had her second Pfizer on Tuesday. Mine was the Moderna Tuesday. Symptoms almost exactly the same. I have heard that most women, after either one, second shot, 7 hours, like clockwork.
It certainly was that way with Tess.
I mean, I'm talking like I've talked to 4, 5, 6 different people, women that have all or husbands who are like, oh yeah, she went down 7 hours like a
just plan on having a bad day the next day.
Yeah.
Is really what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like a very, very light flu, and it would come on and off. It wasn't like constant. It was like, ooh.
Well, Tess here was down with the disease,
you had
as
COVID,
it were.
yeah.
She had COVID. I had COVID. She was sick for about 6-8 weeks, and she's only now getting her sense of taste back and smell.
Again, so if you have a question for the doc, you're watching us on social media, we are more than happy to address it either on the air or right here during the radio commercial break. Just go ahead and ask away.
But get your
your
Tylenol
second
handy.
food. Oh, yeah.
And get the injection.
You know, I never did any Tylenol, and I didn't do ice on the second one, and I did suffer, so I probably should have.
There's thought. Well, I didn't think I needed it after the first time I did it.
I didn't do Tylenol the first time either, but ice I couldn't move my arm for like 3 days. Anyway, so stand by. We're coming back and going to take Jerry's phone call next.
All right.
Welcome back. It's Stages of Life Radio Sunday afternoons from 4 until 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. You can find podcasts and replay videos on social media as well as on the iHeart Podcasts app. It was close. I was so close.
You got it.
It was almost flawless, and then I just... So we got Jerry on the line. Hey, Jerry, you there? There.
he's under the tune.
Yes, hello.
Jerry, how are you doing?
Hi, Jerry. What's going on, Jerry?
I want to tell the doctor I'm a big fan. I listen all the time. I'll give you a quick rundown. My mother's 97. She's amazing. I'm very blessed. She's hasn't gone to the doctor in over 50 years, but
that's why she's 97.
Right. Well, recently with her insurance and all, they make her go to the doctor once a year. Around December, she had a TIA. She went to the hospital, and they put her on Plavix and Lipitor.
All right.
Now, she was taking bare aspirin, 500 milligrams, about four times a day for her arthritis in her knees and her hip. Now, my girlfriend goes to a holistic doctor, and she was telling her about it. And she can hardly get out of the chair now. Before she could, and that doctor, a holistic person, said that it was probably the Lipitor. It's kind of known for doing that, as far as your hips and knees and arthritis. What do you recommend as far as what can she do? We're going to take her off for about 2 weeks, and she says she should know within that time frame if it's a Lipitor or not.
Well, there's a faster way to find out.
Take her off of that.
Yeah, you can go ahead and take her off the Lipitor and see if she starts feeling better. It does, in fact, cause nerve pain as well as muscular pain. Very, very common. So what you do is you give them a healthy slug, a daily slug, of something called vitamin CoQ10. The dosage is about 300 milligrams at a clip. So you just take 300 milligrams once a day, and you're going to know whether or not it's the muscular problem inside of 3 or 4 days. Very fast, very easy. If she starts feeling better, A, that's how you fix it. And B, if it'll make her doctor happy to take the statin at that age, go for it. I wouldn't necessarily do it that way. There are other ways of bringing down cholesterol if, in fact, that's her problem. There's a natural product called bergamot, which is a citrus plant, and bergamot oil will bring down cholesterol. N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, will bring down cholesterol. High-dose folic acid will bring down cholesterol. So there are a lot of ways to do it without making your mom sick. So that's kind of unfortunate. So what
right.
else?
Well, she's never had a cholesterol problem. So
And she may not have one now. One of the
Right.
issues, when my dad was alive, one of the first things they did, he was 91 years old, is he goes to the cardiologist because his poker buddies said, "Hey, Milt, you're 91 years old. You need to go to a cardiologist." Okay, he was dead the next year because of the cardiologist. But the first thing that they
Right.
did was start him on a cholesterol med, a statin. And you know why? Quote, "All of my patients are on
Money.
statins." No, they don't get paid for it. No. No, there's none of that.
Okay.
No, it had to do with ignorance, which I think is worse. If you have a monetary motivation, that at least makes sense, but ignorance doesn't. So the first thing they did was start him on a statin and made him sick. It was ended badly for my dad. I do not use statins in 97-year-olds with those issues. And that's just the way it goes.
Sure.
Plavix may not be a bad way to go. You can do it any number of ways as anticonvulsants, but Plavix is a good safe one. Giving her a baby aspirin with it wouldn't be a half bad idea. It's a little ballsy. Most of the docs do not have those Weibos that we're referring to. But fish oil is also something very, very beneficial under the circumstance because it decreases blood viscosity, which you will know as stickiness or thickness. So why do you want to do this? Because the TIA, or transient ischemic attack, for those that have never been so exposed, is like a mini stroke. Okay, these are not really great things to have happen, but at 97, it's not at all unheard of. And in fact, I'd be shocked if she hadn't had them earlier in her life. So what would I do at this point? I would be having a healthy discussion with Mom about coming off of the statin, going on CoQ10, taking bergamot. Okay, if in fact she had any problem with her cholesterol, which it doesn't sound like she does.
Nope.
Okay, and start letting her live a little bit.
Yeah,
at
keep in
97.
touch.
Yeah, taking a 97-year-old and sticking her in a chair because she can't walk around. That doesn't sound like a big time. Gee, we're going to go celebrate in the end zone type of a touchdown, does it?
No, not at all. All right, here's a text 23680. If you got a question for Dr. David Klein, go ahead and text us in with some information and your question. Here's one: urologist prescribed Flomix after completing radiotherapy for prostate cancer to tighten muscles around the bladder neck. What is your opinion? Do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, Flomax is a decent medication, and it's typical the way they do it. The one I prefer is called Tamsulosin or Prazosin. These are the ones that were around before Flomax, and the reason is this. Tamsulosin, but Prazosin in particular, is a great medication because it acts as a chemotherapy agent for the prostate cancer itself. So if you go on National Library of Medicine's PubMed and do a Boolean search that says prostate and Prazosin, or you can go Prazosin space plus prostate cancer survival, you're going to see about 60 or 70 articles looking at the use of Prazosin to prolong people's life in folks diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer. Prazosin's a blood pressure medicine. It's been around for 40 some odd years. Very, very safe medication, but you got to go slowly with it. So Flomax is great if you have BPH, that's benign prostatic hypertrophy, but following radiotherapy, I prefer using Tamsulosin or Prazosin for this purpose. What else can you use? There are a number of herbals that are really, really helpful with regards to prolonging life, given these sorts of circumstances. So yeah, that's quercetin's a great one. Quercetin, 500 milligrams twice a day, marvelous for this. Inositol, 1,000 milligrams twice a day. So, where do these data come from? Or you talk to your doctor, they go, "Well, I've never heard of such a thing." It's actually been published, and it wasn't published by me. I only wish I were that smart.
Right. Can't take credit for that.
No, I'd love to take credit for that, but I can't.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
Being disingenuous.
Yeah, something like that, exactly. So Kathy, our friend, is still fretting over on the island. She is fretting about either of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines causing long-term side effects. She says she's so scared.
Well, don't be scared.
Please don't be scared, Kathy.
We live in the South here, Kathy. Like it or not, we live in the South.
She lives up north.
Well, wrong, not Merritt Island. Okay.
No. This is the
In that
Nantucket.
case, you would never have heard this. Okay, there's a guy by the name of Stonewall Jackson, and he was a very famous
Never
general.
heard this.
Very famous general. And he said this shortly before he was shot by his own troops, actually.
Whoops.
And that's, "Take counsel not in thine fears." What that means is don't let yourself get psyched out. Okay, make a decision of intelligence and just being cold, and don't do things based upon emotion.
Never.
The fact is this, that issues with these vaccines are so rare. The ones that happened are not the Moderna and the Pfizer anyway. 1/10,000th of 1%, which is so much smaller than your likelihood of getting struck by lightning in your front yard or driving from Nantucket, let's say, to Bangor. Okay?
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No. So what are you going to do? You're going to take the vaccine because I will tell you that the risks of getting the disease are far greater than the vaccine itself.
Yeah, so don't be scared.
Don't be scared. You get the virus, you're going to have a problem. It sucks. I had it. There's 2 weeks I'll never get back. My wife is only now getting her
Taste.
her legs back, as it were, with cooking. Because I'll tell you what, when you lose your sense of taste and smell, you don't cook that well either.
Speaking
Although
of that,
I would not ever say that in her presence.
no.
Although she's sitting
I was
right
trying to
beside me.
sidebar you, but
Yeah, I
you
know.
just kept going.
Oh, I know.
Melanie is checking in on our social media. She's at the Facebook page, Stages
Oh,
of Life Medical
okay.
Institute. And she said, why is sense of smell and taste affected by pregnancy?
Okay, pregnancy does something interesting to women. They get larger, generally speaking, but you end up with a hypothyroidism of pregnancy. Very common. It's the same thing with your hands and feet. You're going to notice that you develop carpal tunnel syndrome bilaterally. You'll get tarsal tunnel syndrome bilaterally. So those little ways you can figure out whether this is going to happen to you is to wear a toe ring. Guys don't typically, but women can. You put a toe ring on. If it starts to get tight, you know that you're getting into trouble. So why does the sense of smell and taste get damaged? Because the nerves are they pass through these holes called ostia, and so when the nerves swell from the hypothyroidism, they tend to get pinched. That's all, nothing more. Now, can you develop a B12 deficiency of pregnancy? And the answer is yes. So usually what I have people do is take some B12 and then just watch your salt intake.
Yeah,
You'll be
remember
fine.
prenatal care is very important. These little, what do they call them? Tumor-like baby things. They're venomous. They want to take everything you have.
Oh, it's been said that the only tumor that becomes malignant after it's removed is
It's
a baby.
a baby. I'm telling you. I
Yeah.
mean, they will suck you dry both inside the womb and out.
Yeah, and then eventually they become 30 years of age, and that stops.
And maybe it
Yeah,
stops.
maybe is right.
Maybe it stops. 407-422-1212 is the number if you want to check in. And also, the text line is open 24 hours a day, 23680. Text in your question for Dr. David
Kathy,
Klein.
don't be scared of the vaccine. Just
Kathy,
get it.
please, just get your second shot and be done with it. Just take
Stop.
one for the team, you know what I mean?
Stop fretting.
We need you around. And yeah, we've been fighting with other islanders on social media. I'm not doing it. It's none of your dang business what I do. Well, go ahead then. Just
It's okay. Don't bother me.
That's fine. Don't befront me none. This is Stages of Life Radio. Go to stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com and become a new patient of Dr. Dave's. And we're clear. I know the phone's ringing. Let's see. All right. Any questions on the internet for us, or should we just ramble on and talk about our weekends?
We could.
That's fine. I didn't do really anything yesterday. It was really sketchy weather, and then it was really hot.
Well, I went to the beach, and it was like
You
just-
were the
it was
one.
clear. It was absolutely clear there.
What time did you go? During the day?
Yeah,
Early?
it went during the day. We left out there it was 3 o'clock that we left.
It must have poured. I mean, it finally came, and then it threw down, and then all of a sudden it was gone at like 3 o'clock, and it had been a very comfortable 77.
We had a
all
few
the
drops
way
actually
here.
on 528.
Yeah.
So we're cruising out towards the beach, and we got a few drops, and that was just about it.
Dang.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was,
it threw down for a minute. It really fiercely did, and it rained on and off. And then when it stopped, it went from that wonderful, peaceful 77 to like 89 in like that. I was walking because I decided, I was like, I'll walk over this way. And I'm walking, and everything's cool, and all of a sudden I'm like,
well, while we're talking Florida, because I had this discussion with somebody just the other day, and they were wondering, why is it that we have to take these supplementations? Why the supplements? Why is this necessary? And most of the things that I've discussed today go south. They go bad. They break as a result of mineral deficiencies. Diabetes, it's vanadium and chromium. Thyroid, zinc and selenium. What I don't want you to do is go out there and run and grab bottles of each of these things, because they have to be taken in the right amounts, ratios, and the right moieties, which means the type is very important. So what happens is this. We eat our vegetables. We eat our meat. We eat all of these sorts of things that are produced from a soil that is deficient in the same minerals. Now, minerals are neither created nor destroyed. They're elements. So if you have fruit drink, just like fruit coming off your tree, and there's not enough zinc or selenium in the soil, you're going to eat the fruit, and it's not going to have it either because it can't make it.
Ew.
That's the way these things go. So I learned this about Florida from a friend of mine who raises horses. And she was out throwing selenium into the horse feed. Now, selenium, when I was in training, was considered to be a poison. You can die of selenium poisoning. Yeah, you sure can. She's throwing it into the horse feed. So I asked her, I said, why are you doing that? She goes, well, if you don't give them enough selenium, they become they get fat. I said, how do they get fat? She goes, well, it messes up their thyroid somehow. So I made a decision to start checking into it. You know something?
Yeah.
She was right.
Oh,
Go figure. And that's how that whole thing started.
wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair
Started
enough.
fixing thyroid disease by giving people selenium. Got into a little trouble because I wasn't giving them zinc with it, which is the lesson I wanted you to learn.
I learned it. I have learned this lesson. Well, isn't that nice? You've joined us again. It's Stages of Life Radio, and everything is still working okay. Yay! I'm Melissa Fox. Catch me tomorrow morning with Good Morning Orlando. Always fun. And right now, Dr. David Klein and I are taking your calls and your texts for our last segment. George checked in. He says, I frequently have to urinate before bedtime. I'm 75. What the heck, Doc?
Well,
But only
George,
then.
That's okay because it beats the heck out of peeing on yourself in the middle of the night.
No,
So
that is
George,
not what
that's
he's
okay.
asking you.
Oh, I know what he's asking. George, you're doing exactly what the body's supposed to do. You wash your face, you brush your teeth, you go to the head, and then go to bed. That's what we're supposed to do. The hardest, and you're bragging, okay, that you're not getting up in the middle of the night because most men over the age of 40 find themselves getting up at least once. So George, be happy.
There you go. All right, and we've got Rick on the phone from up the street in Altamont Springs.
Cool.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, there we go.
How you doing?
Okay, I had a question, a two-part question. I was supposed to get the Johnson shot, but and I'm a male. Not one male has been affected out of millions of people, and I had to cancel, and I was disappointed. And the second one is I have bad allergies, hay fever and everything.
Okay, you're just like everybody else in Florida, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, if we had to eliminate everybody that had seasonal allergies, nobody would ever move to this state or stay here or ever get the injection. I've been telling people not to get the J&J since it came out, actually, because of one thing in particular, and that's that it's not nearly as effective as the Moderna or the Pfizer. So you're blessed. You live in Altamont Springs. So you have an organization not too far from you known as Publix. Okay, Publix, you can go ahead and go on the Publix, the COVID.
Are you going to tell me
site.
that Publix was the one that canceled your Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, because
It was a I forget the name of it. It's a doctor's organization.
Okay, well, whatever it is,
Yeah, just
you
go
can
to
just go to
Publix
Publix.
website, get it done.
They're doing 30 to 50 people a day. Yeah, and they're booked out this week, is my understanding. But they're taking bookings for next week.
CVS, too.
Walgreens, too.
Yeah, just
But I
go.
heard it's 100% for the very severe kind of Johnson.
Well, something, the very severe kind is pretty much limited to folks over the age of 80 that are fat. But I'll tell you what, I have two patients that are neither over the age of 80 or fat that both have heart disease of an irreparable nature as a result of this disease. So it's one thing to be put on a ventilator and die, and it's something else to be allowed to live with a bad heart. One of them is 15 years old. So what I'm going to recommend that you do, okay, is to stop trying to figure out the statistics on this because it really doesn't make any sense. It all points to one conclusion, which is get the vaccine. My recommendation is to get the Pfizer, but if you can't get the Pfizer, you get the Moderna. It doesn't matter, but get it nevertheless. The fact that you're male, okay, that's marvelous. That's the way you were born. That's great. Okay, your age is a blessing. Why? Because you have many friends that didn't live this long, as I do.
Yeah, but see, Rick, I think he was trying to be a one and done.
No, but you know something? It's only 64% effective as opposed to 97% effective for the other. That's a huge difference. And the fact that you're not likely to end up on a ventilator or die is pretty minimal effect.
It's a bonus, really.
Yeah.
I've also heard that if you just get one shot, let's say over the 5 years, 80%. Is that right?
Yeah, well, nobody really knows.
Rick, you don't have the time to go back and get the second shot? Is that the problem?
That's a good question.
Because that's what I'm feeling here.
Yeah, what's the big deal? How old are you, Rick?
74?
Okay, you've had plenty of vaccines over the years.
Every year.
Right.
Well,
okay. So getting a second one for free from the government. Hey, this is one of the few times you're ever likely to get anything from the government that you didn't have to pay for in spades.
In theory, yeah.
Okay. So please go get it and stop second guessing it. Get both doses. I certainly did, and it wasn't easy to get it. I got mine back in January. And I had to claw to get that.
So
thing.
did I. I had to have you fill out special
Yeah,
forms.
special
just
forms.
to do that.
Yeah. So get it.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that you're waiting this long, I'm not impressed. But just get the vaccine and be done with it. Get both doses, and don't sit back and say, "Well, gee, it's 80%."
I've had some friends who got the Johnson & Johnson prior to when the 6 people had blood clots out of 7 million. Whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
And they were the same way. They're just like Rick. They want to just get, we don't really want to do it, but if we have to, we'll get the one and be done with it.
Well, to me, that's just an excuse for being lazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rick, but it felt lazy, and I don't mean to call you out, but...
Well, that's the only reason you would do it.
407-422-1212.
64% effectiveness or 97%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one's done with the strain RNA, and the other's the synthetic reproduction, right?
Yeah, it's just not the same thing.
Yeah. Come on, guys. I mean, if you're going to do it right. Don't bother.
Don't fiddle around with it.
I mean, that's how I got the whole impression from a lot of people. I'll just get the Johnson & Johnson because it's one shot. You don't have... it took me maybe 25 minutes, I think it was.
It takes about between 25 and 35 minutes if you go to Oviedo Mall.
Heck, even Publix is very efficient.
Publix is marvelous. You get in, get it done, and go.
Yeah,
and while you're at Publix,
I got a sub, man.
Get a pub sub. Be with the program there, my friend.
Be
a pub
proactive.
Sub.
Get a sub.
Maybe a real Floridian. You get a pub sub. You know people are from Florida when they go to Publix to get their submarine sandwiches.
Heck yeah, that's some good boar's head meat.
Excellent.
Anyway, so in conclusion of the show today, as we come into the final strains of this episode, we started off talking about what blood work tells us, detecting problems before they cause even larger issues. Is there somewhere where they can follow up on this information, which is a lot to absorb?
Absolutely. Okay, and we can go send them to the podcasts on iHeart.
Well, of course.
Okay, why? Because they're there. I pay to put them up there. There they sit, and you can go ahead and listen to them to your heart's content.
That's correct.
So download the iHeart app, look for Stages of Life Radio.
Yep.
And then find the appropriate podcasts.
Yeah, and you can even see what the doc looks like if you follow our videos on the Stages of Life Medical Institute pages on Facebook, YouTube. God knows you're on Twitter.
I've got a fan club. They're mostly young women.
Actually, it's true. And well, and he always is posting stuff on here and there, especially when there's an article or something of interest that he thinks his patients and his followers might actually be into.
Well, what I do is I take things off the National Library of Medicine, abstracts, and I pop them up there. And the main reason I do this is because it's very helpful to see what just an abstract, which is kind of like the cartoon version of the research actually looks like, as opposed to WebMD or some of the Google searches looking at people's blogs. You really want to get granular if you want to learn how to do these things. Otherwise, you end up becoming roadkill. Well, I read about X, Y, and Z, and somebody out in Wisconsin told me that. Nobody wants to hear that.
Check your sources, people. By the way, you mentioned about testing for antibodies, antigens, et cetera.
Yes.
The COVID hotline still open?
Same one.
407-636-3945 or FloridaLaboratoryAnalysis.com for more information on any type of post-COVID testing.
Yes, ma'am. That would work.
All right, we're going to do this again next week. Catch the doctor as well on Tuesday nights live on Facebook for Connections and Thursday nights on WFLA at 9. This has been Stages of Life Radio. Say goodbye, Doc.
Have a good one.
You've been listening to Stages of Life Radio with Dr. David Klein. Check out stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com or stop by 1917 Booth Circle in Longwood near the intersection of I-4 and 434. Call 407-679-3337. That's 407-679-3337. Dr. Klein accepts most insurance and Medicare, too. Join us next Sunday at 4 p.m. on News Radio WFLA Orlando.
This hour, we're having a salute to a recording artist who says that his biggest source of inspiration was the airwaves, Stevie Wonder.
My greatest influence was radio. It was my greatest friend in that I was able to go many places just sitting in my living room. And even more than sitting there and going there, I could imagine them to be any way that I wanted to see them as being. And that's somewhat the disadvantage sometimes of television, because it doesn't leave anything to the...
Broadcasting live from the United States of America. You're listening to the Living Sexy Radio Network, playing the sexiest music on the planet.
Life is funny, skies are sunny.